Perfect.
Just 1 second.
Tell me when I should start, yeah?
It's good.
Okay. So, Florian, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I have the pleasure to introduce Florian-Weigl today. We would have loved to have him here in person at our third subnet talk of the year. But due to circumstances, it's not possible. Florian would tell us about his work at V2 for unstable media in Rotterdam. And he will let us know how what kind of projects he's doing there and how he's curating and his style of curating and what they're looking for. I saw we met in Denmark last year during a European Union project, and he gave us an in-depth feeling of their work, and I was very impressed. And so therefore I wanted to have him here in Austria to tell us what they're about. So please, Florian, it's all up to you now.
Yes. So thank you, Rudiger, for the introduction. Thank you for inviting me. Of course, due to COVID-19, too bad I'm not able to be present in Salzburg, but lovely that we have this opportunity as well. I'm gonna give a small talk about V2, the Lab for Unstable Media, which I work as curator. I've been doing so for the last 5 years. I will touch upon the history a little bit and the way I work with artists. I also work as freelance curator, and I will within some project touch upon that practice as well. But the main focus is how I collaborate with artists and how this collaboration ends up in V2's public program and beyond. So because I'll work with V2, I'll talk about V2. I'll first briefly tell a little bit about the history. Afterwards, I'll dive into 3 ways I work with artists. One I'll call a long-term research trajectory within V2. One is the development with artists, and the third one is experiments and further developments. But like I said, first a bit about the history. I will now switch to, I will start sharing my screen and a keynote presentation. So you'll know what's, oh, this is already open. Let's see, where's my, sorry about this, there we are. So, and this is not the right page yet. Yes, so V2, the Lab for Unstable Media. We've been, we were founded 35 years ago, and then we still called ourselves the Lab for Unstable Media. We recently, 3 years ago, switched to the Lab for Unstable Media. I can talk about that for a while as well, but I'll first dive into the history. I'm missing a slide. Oh, yeah. Hey, I'll need to double check if this is the right presentation. Sorry about this. No, this is not the right one. I'll improvise, and this should do as well. This is the first building of V2. We were founded as a squad. This is the building is now renovated. Of course, we got a chance to visit it last year, but this is the place where V2 started. It started as a artist complex in which artists had their ateliers. A group of artists had their ateliers, but also a communal space, which immediately became a performance venue. So we had both a really strong leg in music, experimental music. We had the first concerts by Sonic Youth and Einstürzende Neubauten, but also the first concert of Merzbau. This really industrial, harsh, noisy music, and immediately people within these performances started using technology and bringing art into these equations and not having the so-called boring art of normal concerts, but adding layers of on that as well. Besides that, we have a really strong leg within activism. One of the first things we did was distribute manifesto. This is the manifesto that's been sent on newspaper paper to lots of door to door in various cities of the Netherlands. It's in Dutch. On the website we have an English one, but it's looking at two things. The one thing is really finding a place for art that's pushing the boundaries, looking at quantum mechanica, looking at combining science, technology with art that you couldn't find in the museums around that time, and on the other hand, finding an alternative away from the art scene that's still quite similar as it was around that time. It's really market driven, lots of galleries, and you can see a lot in the manifesto, and we still reflect on this to the current day. It's for us a document where we reflect on every time I create this presentation. I look at some certain sentences and that still relate in this current time. It's also a document that I use while I'm working with artists. So this is an interesting starting point of V2. And then now there's something wrong in this. So within our practice, we have four really, and it's been throughout the history of V2. We had four pillars, I'd say, that were there from the beginning, and we still work in this way. One is really artistic experimentation. The image you see on the left is really one of the manifestations of the unstable media, where you see hands-on artistic experimentations. This is noise, sound, really engaging with the audience in this around the squatting time. One aspect that's really a part of our DNA is supporting the practices. It's from early days, getting the first projectors. I'm working with artists that wanted to work with that, having video editing sets, and with every development, the first VR, AR setups already in the 80s, 90s. One thing that was also already from the start quite big in our practice was the combination of practice and theory. So on the right, down right, you see an image of Geert Lovink, who's a media theorist here in the Netherlands, but together with Dick Rijmaker, who's a sound artist, and in like one of these live events, and that's remained with us in the this approach remained with us throughout the 35 years. And network is really, an international network is really a big aspect of what V2 is. Back in the first couple of years, it was really the network of exchanging records, exchanging tapes, and the whole scene that was around that, connected to these new art forms. And and it's changed into many forms. So this was Den Bosch until 1994. The year after, we were invited to move to Rotterdam, another city in the Netherlands. And that's where we currently still operate from, and still the artistic experimentation is part of it. That's an image that I will touch upon later. Still supporting practices. We have an active lab with software and hardware developers to really develop works, but also to experiment live with an audience, and I'll tell you a little bit about it later on. And we are still putting practice and theory together, and now in a broad range of books that we're developing. And the network aspect is still really important. We're really international. We do, besides the exhibitions and one-night events, we do in V2, we do a lot of them with partners abroad, something I'll touch upon later, but you can see that everything is still really connected to the way we started. One thing is, because we've been existing for 35 years, is that we created a really huge archive that's really accessible via our website. So I dare you to just open up the website v2.nl, punch in the name of an artist or a theorist, and I'm surprised with how many of them found their way through V2, through the festival that we have been running, or through the publications. We don't have an active archive at the moment due to the financial difficulties we had somewhat 7 to 8 years ago. But what we do is we document it in one certain way and make it available online. So we have one way of documenting the pieces, describing the pieces, and the website is well, the starting point if you're interested in our history. So let's see. There you see what's wrong with this presentation. All a beautiful pop-up of all the publications that we've been doing. We've I'm sorry about this. Yeah, so this is really short introduction of what V2 was and what V2 still stands for. And now I'll touch upon how I collaborate with artists and how it finds its way into the public program. This always has labels in the shape of co-production, residencies, or developing tools to facilitate artists. What we've been doing for such a long time. One of the examples, here, yes. I'll fly with it. I hope you don't mind. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to touch upon is the long-term research that we've been doing at V2. So it's really embedding the artistic practice within the research that the curators and researchers are doing within V2. It's one of the long-term researches, like things around artificial intelligence. I'm currently researching the Anthropocene, like these huge topics. We tend to research together with artists, commission new works, develop new works within the lab, and the public presentation that comes from that is what we call the Test Lab. Test Lab is a series that we've been running for 12 years. I work as curator for 5 years at V2, so I've been responsible for the last 5 years of Test Labs. But you can see it as a one-night exhibition divided in two. It's getting to know the artist, getting into a conversation that I usually host in the space. And the second part is the exhibition, in which you can, with a beer, try out the works. Every now and then well, half of it are prototypes that we've developed. Some of them are finalized works, but it's all works that you need to interact with or can play with in one way or another. And this example is the function creep edition. In short, the function creep is is the notion of, well, every technological device you have in your house does a little bit more than you want it to do. The term was coined around a robot vacuum cleaner that, besides cleaning your house on a monthly basis, sends the floor plan of your house to the manufacturer, something nobody knew before you dove into the tech, something you probably don't want, but still it's happening. So around this notion, I invited artists to reflect on this. Two examples I wanted to give this is Wesley Goatley, who created an installation around Alexa and Siri. It's Alexa is hanging. It's the Amazon device that you place in your house. It has an active microphone, so if you want to order something online, you just scream in your house, "Alexa, get me the Nespresso cups I want," and it orders it. And you can right away see that there's something wrong with this because it can. If you look at the tech, it's ridiculously cheap. The microphones that are in there are really expensive. If you want to reproduce it without using their tech, without just purchasing it, you end up buying a lot more. And right away in those things, you can see there's something not right. There's another way of making money. So in this case, you could really see he analyzed the device, and you could see they can learn so much freaky stuff from just placing it in your house. You can they know how many people live in this house. They know what kind of environment you're in, because it can hear if it's placed in the kitchen or in the living room. It can hear emotions, of course, how you're interacting with each other. And of course, it's constantly on. And well, he created this device in which the Siri, the assistant on your iPhone, gets into this conversation. And well, he's here presenting it. Another work that we placed in this test lab was a work by Manuel Beltran. We sent him on his summer residency to Argentina, and he created the piece here. The piece there, it's around Facebook, and what the installation asks is come there, place your iPhone there, scroll for 2 minutes on your Facebook timeline, and because of course Facebook makes a lot of revenue via this way of extracting data, he asks you to scroll for 2 minutes. And he analyzes the way you scroll, the intensity you scroll with, but also how your face reacts with a small camera. And at the end of the 2 minutes, you get a small receipt based on your local income. He makes an estimate of what you made for Facebook, and also has a suggestion that you should reclaim that money because you, in a way, worked for Facebook, of course. Another test lab we run was Artist on AI. We've been researching artificial intelligence for quite a long time, but we commissioned a couple of artists to reflect on this in 2018 again. This is a work that came out of it by Noah Silver, which I really liked. It's an AI cookbook, and it immediately shows how AIs are worthless if you don't have a certain programmer connecting the dots and shaping it in a certain way. What he did, he extracted all the vegetarian dishes from Jamie Oliver that were available online and used a ready-made text-to-image algorithm to make really abstract images. And based on these images and the learnings, he created the recipes, how you should make the recipes, and the titles of the newly created dishes. And just so he just combined a couple of existing AIs, and what it came up with, of course, is crap, because there was no human involved that pushed it in a certain way. The learning curve was really small, so what you ended up with was dishes that you had to cook specific pasta for a couple of seconds and serve stuff raw that you can't eat raw, making right away this point that if you just have this massive amounts of data and some self-trained AIs and you hook them up to each other, you end up with crap. And in this test lab, he both published the cookbook and he recreated some of the dishes that were really unedible. A really fun project. Another project in this is one where we I forgot his name. This is Jan Bijster. Sorry, it's really important to have the credits right. Jan Bijster created this 2-player game, a really arcade style, in which you train an AI with a couple of moves, and then they'll fight each other. And in the second part, and you'll end up a winner. So without knowing what you train it for, you train it and you see how the movements are going, and then they battle each other out. It's a really fun way of also learning how you train AIs. You can see a small glimpse here. Another example is Wouter Modal, who created a board game, an old school board game around the bias that are involved with AIs. He started. You start in a city, but depending on if you're in the good neighborhood or bad neighborhood, you have certain advantages. For example, the bad neighborhood usually has more cameras. You have police patrolling it a lot more, and thereby making it on paper a bad city. And well, it's a really fun 4-player game where you can really get the idea of how biased an AI can be. This is a project by Jonathan Reus and Joanna Chikau, who opened up an AI and looking at how medical people were dissecting humans, and combining these two things in a really short explanation of the work. And but they created a really beautiful visual performance. While live coding, you could really see how the AI was functioning. And well, it's the first step into a long series of performance that they're developing. Really nice project. Let's see. And now, bear with me a little. I'll find the next couple of slides. This is I'll really quickly double check if it's, yeah. This is just got mixed up. Yeah, I'm sorry about this. So this is the last test lab I will elaborate on, and quite briefly, it's graceful extinction is one of the first steps into the research of the Anthropocene that I've been doing based on a couple of books that we published. And it's really this, I played with this thought experiment of if we know that humans will get extinct at one point, will it be in the first couple of years or in 50 years? And I asked artists, how would you change the world for the species that get left behind? So I had also eight projects being presented there, but I wanted to show two. Ivan had presented a lot of autonomous robots, drones, or that could either seed plants or work with water. And I asked, and Petya had this idea of a chemical reaction that you could place on e-waste, and her ideal situation would be all of the data centers that are in that case obsolete. You could turn into really beautiful public sculptures. So this is some of the notions how we work with how we find artistic practice within this long-term research. Another way to work is long-term developments with artists. And I wanted to give 3 examples. One is Teun Vonk. He created A Physical Mind. This is a work he created as part of our summer residency. Every year we send 8 artists abroad for 8 weeks to realize a project, or at least make a workable prototype. And we sent him to China, and he was already working. He came from photography, but he was working a lot with making things more physical. And throughout his residency, he didn't make anything. He came back to Rotterdam and said, "Well, I have lots of ideas, but I didn't realize one." That's one of the things we always have an international presentation at the end of the summer residency. We invite the artists back, reflect on what they made, and see if we can take extra steps within the project. So from the first workable prototype, we could add more. I see a small pop-up coming up, but it's probably Rudy. No, it's nothing time-wise, right? So what he did for the Ars Electronica presentation, he made he made this new work based on all of the ideas he had. You're, as an audience member, are place yourself into the sculpture, and you're squeezed together, and to give a small insight in how we can work with an artist. The presentation at Ars Electronica brought some budget to realize this work. The year after, I had a possibility of also, during Rotterdam Art Week, present them at Art Rotterdam, a really big art market, art fair. And we could invest some more money to make it a little more sustainable. Afterwards, he got a chance to present it on a festival in Brazil, got some extra money to invest in it. And this is a really nice example of how you can also take small, meaningful steps in a longer process to, in the end, make something quite big. Let's see. Oh, and then I'm interrupted by Rudiger, but I don't think he has.
Sorry, it was my fault. No. Sorry, Florian. I was just, because I forgot to mention at the beginning that normally then we switch over to a discussion part, and I was just wondering. I want to let you know, whenever you're ready for questions, just let us know. Sorry.
Oh,
sorry for interrupting you in the middle.
No, not worry at all. But that means I have to speed up a little in the presentation.
Yeah, please. Just, no, don't speed up. But whenever you're ready, just let me know. Because I forgot to mention in the beginning. Sorry for that.
Yes. No worries. So a small example of Teun's new work that he got that we could collaborate with him on was this piece where your vacuum like a vacuum cleaner are being lifted into a really beautiful abstract experience. We were able to before the presentation on a big media festival in Eindhoven, we were able to try it out in V2, just have it hanging there for a month, where he could make improvements, and we could have 2 test nights for the audience to already work with it. Really, I'll speed up. One other summer session example is Phillip Vermeulen. He created, maybe some of you saw it at Ars Electronica, he created a tennis ball machine as an instrument. So he had two tennis ball shooters shooting at wooden panels and catching the balls again, and thereby he could create a rhythm. This is he made it in Croatia as part of the again part of the summer session residencies. So here you see the balls flying through the air. It goes very fast and very loud, and he could make compositions out on it. Another example of how you can make steps with artists. This was we were able to present it at Ars Electronica. So one extra step within the development. Afterwards, I was able to present him at our museum night, a one-night event in Rotterdam, and all the museums are open throughout the night. And he therefore added stroboscopic light, so you could really perform on it. And this is a picture of him presenting it in the Berghain in Berlin, in the Techno Temple. So a really nice moment to take these extra steps. Yeah, this is these are 4 images of an exhibition I was planning to do with Phillip, but due to COVID-19, it got postponed. But it's just the trajectory of how you can work with an artist. And this example is Johannes Langkamp. We sent him to China to create a device. On its proposal, a device to follow the sun and make a movie out of it. So with our partner Chronos Art Center, he created this device and one movie. But 2 years ago, we started talking again because this notion it had so much. That was that he didn't touch. He still wanted to do a lot more with this project. So walking towards an online exhibition at V2, we got his machine working again. He developed 2 more works. One is the one he made in Shanghai. One is in Rotterdam, and one is in Norway. So he made new movies. He made a work of a light bulb that's actually real time following the sun. That's on the laptop. And in the process, he made 4 or 5 other works. So that was a really lovely next step. And it ended up his first solo exhibition in the Netherlands in our space that you can see here. And the third step I could take with him was that we were invited to curate an exhibition in Shanghai again. So last year I did an exhibition in collaboration with the UN Art Center, an art center there, and I decided to work with a local curator, and we selected 2 Chinese artists, 2 Dutch artists. And that had similar artistic research approaches. So and on the back you see Coralie Falcolar, her work. We were able to bring the piece back to China, and that was a really nice one. I'll quickly touch upon the next one. It's 3x3. I call it experiments, live experiments, and then a further development. And I wanted to slowly, speakingly show 3x3 is just, you can see it as either a 3-month residency with 3 live events, but you can also see it as a 3 nights where you can do a live experimentation. It happens. The focus is every first Friday of the month I have a live experiment, which for an artist gives direct feedback. You don't, you right away you start playing with something. You experiment. For all I care, you make something out of cardboard, or you make the first 2 interactions that you want to further develop something with, and you right away see an audience reacting to it. It's a really informal setting. You have the audience walks around with a beer and can talk with an artist. So also on the other hand, the audience is able to see the practice of an artist. You don't come into a white cube where the work is finalized, it's polished, there's no distinction. It is art, but you have the possibility to take a small peek into an artist's practice. And I've been running that series for 5 years. Some highlights or further developments. One, I worked with Johannes Lund, an artist that was at that time living in the Netherlands, but he's originally Swedish. Decided to start coding once that we had an audience of 7 persons. And after the 3 hours, it was either a finalized net artwork or it was a failure. Really lovely way to approach it. Afterwards, I was able to commission him to do a performance, a long-term performance in public space. I decided that public space is also the internet. So in conversation with him, we created a small office setting. The project is called Operation Earnest Voice. He looked at how the Russians were manipulating the elections in America. And because we had in Rotterdam had local elections, he decided to do the same. We had some paid volunteers who worked to troll and to change with taking over hashtags. They all got thousands of fake Twitter followers, Twitter accounts to work with, and all of them got a couple of minutes to push a cause or to change a cause, and that was really fun to do. The audience could walk in and see it happening live. This is Coralie Vogelaar, who I worked with during the 3x3. She really used the space to try things out. Really short on the left, she did a lecture performance with different type of images. She invited a dancer to look at 3D sculptures and to classical sculptures and how they relate to you in public in the current time. She had this actor mimicking all kinds of emotions, and we presented it as a performance. And once again, we were able to bring her to China with an exhibition. This is our space. Yeah, as you can see, it works well if I present 8 to 10 pieces, and I think time-wise it makes sense to end it here. Rudiger.
Sorry, I'm back here. Sorry, I missed the button. The button I found just before by accident. I found it now. So yes. Thank you very much, Florian. Sorry for forgetting to mention that we are about the structure in the beginning. Yes. Now I'm gonna pass it over to Jeanette.
Perfect.
She's gonna read out the questions, so we avoid the big confusion. So Jeanette, please, if you would like to start, and afterwards, I think Maurice and me are gonna join in as well.
Yes. Okay. Hi, Florian. Thank you very much for this interesting talk. And we have some questions for you. So the first one would be, how large is the artist in residence program weighted against commissioned work, publications, and exhibits? Should I repeat it one more time?
Yes,
sorry.
Please.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
How large is the artist in residence program weighted against the commissioned work, publications, and exhibits?
Yeah, it's especially the artist in residence program. It has it has a lot of different shapes. The one I focused on a lot was the one we have with young talent. We call it young talent if you're under 35, and what's up for debate, and we break our rules as well. But that's really the summer program in which we work with. In a network setting with a lot of artists, but next to that, we also work a lot with something you can call residency, but also a commission, because we work a lot with software and hardware developers. It already, if it's a commission and we're also creating it, or we have the hardware developer meeting up at V2, it can easily feel as a residency as well, or in a different shape. So it makes most sense, I think, to answer the question that it's 100% about creating work, and if it's in a commission, or if the research that we've been doing in expert meetings ends up in a publication, that's also a really beautiful way. But it's all about production as the main focus. I hope that answers the question a little bit.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
I got a follow-up here.
Sure.
So how important is the interconnection between the arts and the sciences for you? Because especially with unstable media, you try to go new paths all the time, don't you?
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's the main. It's the most important thing, I think, for sure. Yeah. It's. Yeah. In short, that's.
So do you cooperate with universities, or do you invite scientists, or how does this work?
It's really different in every project we do, but we have examples of bringing in theorist artists on a monthly basis for the duration of a year to create new works, to reflect on things. We have collaborations with universities focused on producing a specific work, but we also have bigger scale collaborations with art school, another cultural partner, and the lab of a university. So it's all of the above, I think.
Thank you. Jeanette, please.
Another question would be, what does the manifesto say? And why is it called F2? Was there F1 before?
F2 is just the street it's the first letter of the street where we squatted the building. So that's it doesn't have it's not we didn't have a version 1 at one point. It's not the real connection to the Russian bomb. It's just the first. It's how hip bars nowadays name their spaces as well. Yeah.
It's a German bomb.
Oh,
it's Hitler's bomb, V2.
Oh, sure.
It's Vergeltung. And what does the manifesto say, Florian? That was the question.
Let's see what it says. Well, it's. Well, it says. I can quote a little bit from it. Let's see. It starts with we thrive to constant change movement. We serve the unstable media, all media that's used by electricity flows, frequencies, motors, sound, light, video, computers. Instability is inherent on the media. We have the unstable media are the medias of these times. There's I hear somebody. Oh, yeah, sorry. But it also says. I'm looking for the. It's about movement, about change. It's opposites to the art world that works that reaches us via publicity and media. Those forms are standing still. They're based on budgets and collectors and historics and critics. Art should be destructive and constructive. So it's a small segment of the manifesto.
Thank you.
We should find it on the net and read it.
I would like to ask one more question if I can, Sonette.
Sure, yeah.
So the other question I was having is V2 was built up by Alex. I mean, that's how I got to know him in Linz like many years ago. And I think V2 was very much focused on the two founders. So how did this change away from the founders change V2 from your point of view? I think
yeah, some background information. Alex and Joke were the founders that were. Alex sadly passed away last year, but he was the head of V2 for the whole 35 years. And Joke was really involved with the publication. Joke is still part of our team, but Alex for sure leaves a really void after his passing. I think he never, before that, he was constantly involved with it throughout the 35 years. But what's interesting is that the current director has worked with Alex for over 12 years. He was a curator for 12 years and now stepped up as the director. And I, of course, had the pleasure of knowing him for 13 years and working with him for 5 years. So especially because of all of these conversations and the constant development and his constant vision of looking forward, never looking back, never ever thinking of his own practice to document it in a book after 25 years. Not just looking forward. That's still a really big part of V2 today, I think. So it shaped it, and it's obviously within all of these years developing and changing, but it's still close, this legacy that he left behind. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. How does the current situation affect the approach you have with artists? You're hosting the artists, the way you work with artists.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think normally a lot of your job has to do with traveling and meeting people and connecting people, and I think this changes a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. What you could on our website, we right away made a coronavirus response. Like we immediately because we were. We made the exhibition in Shanghai when the COVID-19 hit there. We got a chance to see how quickly something can change, and right away we thought what we are not gonna do is we're not gonna just transform everything online for the people that are lucky enough to not to have the headspace and to have the steady income to just to have their somewhat corona vacation, just to lay back and relax until it blows over. And because we immediately we're so connected to artists, we saw like even you have artists that have had side jobs working in restaurants or as baristas, and they lost all of their income right away because the bars were closed as well. And we immediately made a small open call towards the artists that we worked with a lot to ask what was on their mind and what they wanted to create in the current situation. So just also really investing in maintaining the ecosystem, but also just being able to give them some funding to produce projects that matter to them and also keep their practice running. And so that's one thing we did. We without a date to present it or a team even in which they wanted to present it, just looking at what do you want to make. The second thing we did is looked at all of our publications and see what touched upon or what could be helpful within this situation. So we made a lot of these documents, either chapters or entire books, available online for free. So not just say, you probably have time so you can watch our symposium we did 2 years ago as to kill time, just really create these handles that you could work with. And we had a lot of experiments that we moved online because it benefited it was beneficial for the project, for the realization of the project. So we had some experiments that we were planning to have in our space, but the input that the artist needed, it made sense to have one of these 3x3 editions online and reacting. So we did a mixture of things.
And how was, from your point of view, to what extent were you successful from your personal subjective point of view?
Yeah.
Like, could you help, or was it very difficult? Like do you really see results? That's what I mean.
Yeah, I see, especially the possibility of approaching it as open as just an artist just asking himself the question, what do I really want to make in this time was really valuable. I was surprised by the stories that that everybody probably heard of, how people, artists that you were already talking with, had to leave within an hour to even get the last plane, or to have to come back from New York with via 6 planes, which is normally just one direct flight. But I think being able to facilitate the commission, the possibility to create new pieces is really valuable. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Yeah, there would be another question. What was the project that touched you the most, and why?
Ooh. That's a difficult one.
Hard question.
Yeah. It's I'm also looking towards the whole archive. Especially when I was still studying and I frequently visited V2. I still I live in Amsterdam, so took the train to Rotterdam, and one of the projects that stays with me is just a project that was by the current director, and it was around smell, like this idea that we had in our space this wall where you could just work with the artist only worked with smell, and that made a huge impact on me in different ways. So like it was this diagonal wall with holes in it, and you could smell, not knowing what you were smelling. And just also this I was surprised by, like, for example, you smelled something really nice and afterwards something really horrible, and then also the audience just kept smelling all 20 containers that you could smell. These ideas that you smell something horrible but still feel comfortable, you trust it enough to dive in it again. But that was a really nice experience to have.
I can't believe that. It was strange. Nice. And what is normally not now, because now I think it's a little bit different. But what is the percentage between international and local artists normally at V2?
That really depends. I'd say it's more of a question of we tend to find artists that we can work with for a longer time. So whether it's in conversations online already, we in general work a lot with artists that you're talking with for half a year or at least a couple of months. But besides that, I think it could be a 50-50, but it really depends how you want to distinguish it. Young artists that we send out, of course, is really local, so that kicks up the number a lot as well. So it's a mix, and it's different every time, but it's let's say 50-50.
50, okay.
So then I have one last question, if there's nothing else, before we finish the video, because normally we try to keep it within 1 hour.
Yes.
So so what are your expectations for the coming months? You are working with local artists right now, from what I understood.
Yes.
And what are what's from your institutional point of view? What is the next few years the next few months gonna bring for us? How are you gonna do exhibits?
Yeah.
Or are you just planning on doing more and more artists in residence and trying to really support artists and make them ready for the time after this huge incident?
Yeah, within the things I'm planning, it's you can really divide it between making the work and looking at the post-COVID situation, I think, because I'm currently already planning exhibitions that will happen in December, and in the same way develop new works with artists. So from a personal point of view, I really think I'm thinking of the incident, as you call it, and the time afterwards. But in general, I think we look like within the summer session program. It's an exchange network, and now all of the artists will stay in Rotterdam or even in their studios, depending on the situation. But that does mean that we can have a more sustainable collaboration with them. You can it doesn't matter normally. Because we fly them out, you need a return ticket, and you say we're going to collaborate for 8 weeks, and now it depends. It can also mean that halfway through the project you already want to try it out, and maybe it changes into a project that will last for in which the second project will last for a year. So I hope that we're from a institutional point of view that things will change. It's the flying in terms of flying all over the world for one day. In this case, I see that lots of people are changing these ways already. Like it's residencies tend to get longer throughout. Because you fly them to Japan or to China, so I hope that's something that will stay with us. That we, in this case, I was planning to come to Salzburg, but like many, make the decision to take the train instead of. So I hope that with that realization, something will change.
Yes, this was actually one of the main reasons we wanted to do this talk today, so we can have you here in person.
Yeah,
and we can show you our context and and really discuss our possibilities. But I hope as soon as the whole situation has passed, we can find another possibility to have you over.
Yeah,
and yeah, we would love to have you here, and I hope to see you soon in Rotterdam.
Yes, likewise.
On this note, I would like to say thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your insightful talk. And I see you soon, I hope.
Yes, likewise.
Goodbye.
Bye.